Welcome back to our Beatrice YouTube channel. Today's class we're going to learn how to create this beautiful back lace-up corset that we have here, and how to make a neat modesty panel just like we see it here. Okay, so a modesty panel just helps to cover up your lacing so that the back is not going to be exposed. Remember, it's usually like this. So with a modesty panel like this, it's just going to cover everything up for you so that you're not going to expose anything. You can see how neat this is looking. We're going to be learning how to create this in this video. If this is something you would like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. So to make this lace up back with modesty panel, I already drafted my back panel. Okay, so this is an off-shoulder panel. You can also do this with a tube or a dress with shoulder, whichever one you want to work with. So I have my back panel here. This is my zipper allowance and this is my dart. So because you are creating a modesty panel for this, you already know you are going to be using a lace up, so we are not going to need this zipper allowance. So for this reason, I'm just going to cut off this zipper allowance that I have here. So I'll just have my exact back measurement here. So after cutting this off, the lacing that we're going to be creating for this, remember it has to have a space for us to lace it up so that we can really snatch the waistline off. For whatever reason you want to do this, there is going to be like a space in between for you to pass this lace. So to create that space, depending on the design you want to go for, you can just go ahead and remove like 1.5 inches on both sides. So if you want it to have like 3 inches opening, you are going to remove 1.5 inches from each of them, because this is just a half scale bodice. So if you want it to have like 4 inches gap between them, you're going to go ahead and remove 2 inches. So I want it to be like 3 inches space interval between it. So I'm going to just take away 1.5 inches on the lower part and the upper part, because I just want it to come straight down. If you want it to have like a V effect where it has a broader space on the upper part, and then on the lower part you have like maybe a more narrow design. So after removing 1.5 inches here, you can just remove 1 inch on the lower part or 1/4 of an inch, whichever one you want to work with is fine. So now that I have marked the 1.5 inches, I'm just going to connect this together now, and again I'm going to cut this off as well. So that is going to be the space that we are going to be having between each of the back panel. So now this is the back panel that I'm working with. So now there are several ways you can actually insert your modesty panel, but for this I want it to be sewn together with the cloth. So I'm just going to insert it inside my dart line. So what I'm going to do now is to connect my dart up to the upper part. You can see the center line here. I'm just going to connect it to the upper part so that I can cut this off completely, and then I'll have 2 separate pieces so that I can just input my casing, my modesty panel inside the dart. So now I am cutting it off. Okay, so I'm just going to label this as my center back so that I don't get confused, and then you can label this as the upper part, and then I'm going to cut off the other dart. So that is it for the back. So now the measurement that you're going to need for your modesty panel, I'm going to measure from where I'm going to be inserting it, which is here. Okay, so I'm inserting it inside this dart. So I'm measuring from here, and then it's going to come all the way to this place, and then I'm going to include my opening. Remember, I'm leaving a 3 inches opening. I removed 1.5 inches already. So now these 3 inches, I'm going to include it in this. So I have 2 inches here. If I had the 3 inches, I'll have 5 inches, and then I'm going to add extra 1 inch so that I can go into the other side as well. So now the total width that I'm working with for my modesty panel is 6 inches. It can be more if you really want it to enter into the other side very well. So you can add 1 inch to it to make it 7 inches, but 6 inches is okay for me for this tutorial. And that's going to be the width of the modesty panel. And then for the length, you're going to measure the length of your center back, of your length of your bodice. Then after measuring the length, you make sure that it is shorter by around 1 inch to 1/2 inch on the upper part, and then 1 inch to 1/2 inch on the lower part as well. So now I have a total of 11 inches here. So if I remove 10 inch, it means I'll have half an inch shorter on both sides, and if I remove 9 inches, it means I'll have 1 inch shorter on both sides. So I'll just go ahead and cut out a panel of 10 inches by the 6 inches that we measured, and then I'm going to add seam allowance all around it. So I have cut out my 10 inches by 6 inches. As you can see, this is 10 inches in length, and then the width is 6 inches. So it's just going to come from inside this dart like this, and then it will extend to cover the lace up that we are doing. This is the essence of the modesty panel. If you don't want your skin to be showing after lacing up your corset or your back bodice, so this modesty panel is going to cover it for you. So it should be enough to cover the 3 inches that we are going to be creating, the 3 inches gap, and then it's also enough to enter into the other side of the center back. So now I'll go ahead and cut this on my fabric. So I'm cutting my modesty panel using this plain fabric, and also be cutting my lining using the plain fabric, and then my main bodice will be cut using this Ankara fabric. So I am gonna have to cut it. This is the modesty panel, and you can see I added my allowances all around this. This is the center back, and this is the side back. Okay, so now I cut 4 for this, 2 for lining and 2 for main fabric, same for this as well, and I just have 2 for my modesty panel, 1 for lining and 1 for the main fabric. So you can go ahead and add interfacing to this, but I'm just going to sew mine straight. So I'll just sew it all around and then leave a space to turn it out, and then I'm going to iron it. And then for the main bodies, I'm going to detach my lining and my main fabric. So before I detach it, I'm just going to notch the upper part so that I can know, and then this side I'm going to notch it as well, so that I can know that this is the side that I sewed to my side back, because it's very similar. So after notching it, I'm going to detach it. And then for the main fabric, I'm going to go ahead and create my loops. So you can use loops for this, or you can use your highlights. Okay, so this is what the bodice looks like. So you join the center back to the side back for both sides of the front on the main fabric. I'm leaving the lining out first, because that is where I'm going to be inserting the modesty panel. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and join it, and then I'm going to create a long groove like this, and then I'll cut it out to create my loops. So I already have a tutorial on how to create loops. So it's just simple. You just place it like this, and then sew it at the interface that you want. So I'll go ahead and do this now and bring it back to show us what we have. Okay, so I have gone ahead to sew it, as you can see, and then I just opened my seam, and I have added the loops as well on both sides, so you can see my loops. So the next thing now is to work on the modesty panel. I have sewn the modesty panel as well, and I have turned and ironed it as well. So now this open part is where I'm going to be inserting it to my lining. Okay, so this is the lining that does not carry the modesty panel. I've gone ahead to join it as well. But this other one, that's I think the left side of the lining, is where I'm going to be sewing my modesty panel. So you can see this is the right side of the lining. So now I'm just going to place the modesty panel between the center front and the center back. Okay, so you just leave the spaces that we left like that, and then I will just lay it over it as on like this, and then I'll go ahead and sew it, so that the modesty panel is going to be turned in between the two sides of the lining. So I have sewn it now. You can see I've sewn it together now, and this is what it looks like. So the next thing now is to iron this flat as well. So now you can see that my modesty panel is successfully tucked in. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to go ahead and turn my main bodice with the lining. Okay, so I'll place this right side facing right side of lining facing right side of the main fabric, and then I'm going to sew it all around. So when you are sewing this modesty panel, you make sure you tuck it in so that you don't sew on your modesty panel. So for the other side as well, I'm going to place it right side facing right side, and then I'm going to sew all around it, and then bring it back to show us what it looks like. So I have gone ahead to sew all around it just like we have seen now, and then I'm just going to turn it out so that I can iron it. So you turn it out neatly, and then for the side with the modesty panel, you make sure that your modesty panel is tucked in away from your seam, and then you also turn that out as well, and then you iron. So I'm bringing everything out now, and then I'm going to go ahead and give it a good press. So I'll see you after ironing it. But you can see now this is our modesty panel neatly inserted into our lining, and then this is the other side. So I'll just go ahead and give it a good press. So I have gone ahead to iron it, and you can see how flat it is looking now. This is the other side as well, it is ironed. So now all you just need to do is to create another rope so that you can pass it through your loops, and then your casing is ready. But just look at this so you can see. So now when you pass your rope, the spaces that you have there, this modesty panel is just going to cover it up for you so that no skin is going to show by the time you lace your corset or your back panel. So now I'll pass this rope. Okay, so this is what it looks like after lacing it. You can see that the back is no longer exposed, and you can just tie it. So it's important for you to leave half an inch or 1 inch on the lower side and upper side, just in case you are sewing this to a lower skirt pattern, or you want to add maybe a yoke or anything to the upper pattern. You will also have enough room to do that. And this is what it looks like on the inside. You can see the modesty panel, and you can see how neat it is looking. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.